Hello, I'm Beth, and this is Social Leopards. Today, I want to talk about a topic that's often a little hard to talk about, breaking up with a friend. It can be really hard to come to grips with a connection like that, especially when, for whatever reason, it no longer feels right. Now, I don't want to make this a heavy or a gloomy episode. I want to approach with hope and clarity. And the goal's kind of to leave anyone who might be struggling with a lost or a struggling connection in a way that makes you feel empowered and equipped. I know that none of us needs a lecture today or a rehash of the same advice you're going to scroll past online. I want to talk about the feelings that crop up when friendships end, how to handle the breakup with care, and how to move forward stronger. So let's get into it. Friendships change. That's the starting point, I think. People grow, priorities shift, and sometimes a connection that used to feel effortless starts to feel like a chore. Maybe it's the friend you used to call every week, but now you kind of don't respond right away to their texts because the conversation feels one-sided, or the one whose life choices no longer align with yours, and every hangout feels you leaving either a sense of disconnect or your energies are no longer matching, leaving you feeling drained afterward. This isn't about judging anyone, it's about recognizing when a friendship isn't serving either of you anymore. I've totally been there. Years ago, I had a friendship who was someone I considered my BFF. We'd spend hours, literal hours, talking about everything from work to dreams, always on the same wavelength. But over time, things kind of started to shift. This friend got stuck in a cycle of negativity, and every conversation turned into a venting session with no room for my input. It wasn't malicious, it was just exhausting. Holding on felt like a duty instead of, joyful interaction. I didn't actually let go of the relationship, but I did start redirecting these chats, and after a while, my friend started to distance herself. I don't think she fully appreciated the way that I was handling the conversation because it wasn't that I didn't allow her to talk, but I was cutting kind of the venting session parts a little bit short. And eventually, she shifted towards someone else to fulfill those venting needs. We connect every so often to this day, and while we aren't as close, I don't think either of us feels any hard feelings between us. The relationship kind of organically became less consistent, and I'm okay with it. I have to admit that at the time, it was kind of freeing, like unclenching a fist you didn't realize you were holding tight, if that makes sense. At the time that I started kind of slowing things down and cutting the conversations a little bit short, I was also in a newish relationship with the man who is now my husband, so my priorities had also shifted. And to talk about it right now, in this moment, many, many years later, I think maybe that change of seasons between us may have been a factor that I didn't even realize was in play at the time. Another example is the friendship that shifts due to distance. I had lots of what I would consider good friends when I lived in California, but obviously when I moved back to the Midwest, that was a much more dramatic shift. Sure, we attempted to maintain what was back then Facebook friendship and occasional phone calls, but not being able to spend time together face to face was soon replaced by the reality of living somewhere new. While I wouldn't classify it as a true breakup type of event, I did occasionally grieve the loss of some of that closeness I felt with those people, but it just wasn't practical anymore due to the distance. I could bring up lots of other examples, but I think you get the point. So let me get to the point of why I chose this topic. How do you know when it's time to step back from a friendship? For me, I think it's less about dramatic red flags and more about your own feelings. Ask yourself, do you feel energized after spending time with the friend? Or do you need time to recover like you've just run a marathon? Are your conversations mutual? Or are you always the listener, never the speaker? Or is the other person not really participating very much in the conversation? Those are another maybe kind of set of signals that the friendship is a little bit mismatched. If you're focused on building a career or starting a family, but your friends' priorities are completely different, say maybe they're still in constant partying mode every weekend, or they're not really interested in your current goals, you might feel like you're speaking different languages. That's also certainly happened to me. Here's a way to kind of check yourself. Reflect on your last few interactions. If you're consistently leaving those moments feeling unheard or judged or just off, that's a signal. It's not about one bad day, we all have those, but a pattern that persists. For example, I had another friend who'd make subtle digs about the choices I was making, like choosing to stay in instead of going out. At first, I brushed it off, but over months, it kind of added up. It was like a slow drip eroding my confidence. And here's a quick reality check. If your friend's version of support is giving advice you didn't ask for, or comparing your life to theirs, or clearly changing topics as if they weren't even listening to you in the first place, those might be signs that it could be time to rethink things. Friendships should feel like a two-way street, not a one-way or a dead end. So how do you actually break up? This part can feel uncomfortable to say the least, but it's about being honest without being harsh. First, consider the context. If it's a close friend, a face-to-face conversation shows respect. Pick a neutral spot like a quiet cafe or a park bench where you can talk without distractions. If the friendship has already started down that path to fading out, a thoughtful message might be enough. No need to force an in-person talk for someone you barely see. But when you do talk, lead with your feelings, not accusations. Try something like, I've been thinking a lot about our friendship, and I've noticed we're not connecting like we used to. I really love the times we've spent together, like those late-night chats and about our plans for the future, but lately it feels like we're on different paths. I think some space might be good for both of us. This type of approach is clear, it's kind, and it focuses on your experience instead of your friend's flaws. It's like saying, this isn't working for me, because making it about them is definitely the harsher choice. What if the friendship is more casual? A gradual fade might work. Responding less frequently, prioritizing other plans, but be careful. Ghosting someone you've been close to can leave them hurt or confused. A short message like, hey, I've loved our time together, but I'm pulling back a bit to focus on some personal goals. Wishing you all the best, can provide closure without making it a huge confrontation. And there's always the possibility that you do get a bad reaction, no matter how gently you try to deliver the message. They might feel hurt or get defensive, and that's okay. You can't control their response. You just have to be ready for it. Acknowledge their feelings. I understand this might be tough to hear, and I'm sorry if you're feeling hurt, but stay firm in your decision. It's like setting a boundary. It's clear, respectful, and non-negotiable. If they push back, don't get drawn into a debate. Reiterate your need for space and give them time to process. The aftermath is where things can get a little rougher, but also where growth happens. Ending a friendship can bring up guilt or sadness, even if it was the right call. Let yourself feel it. Journaling can help. Just write down what you're feeling without overthinking it. I did this after parting ways with that first friend I mentioned. Putting my thoughts on paper helped me see that I wasn't abandoning her. I was choosing my own peace. It took a few weeks, but the guilt faded and I felt lighter, like I'd made room for something better. Self-care is key here. Use this time to reconnect with yourself. Pick up a hobby you've neglected. Maybe that yoga class you've been meaning to try, or joining that hiking club you've been daring yourself to sign up for. Reach out to other friends who lift you up. I actually called up an old work friend recently who I hadn't spoken with in months. And we ended up scheduling a time to get together. And we went out for coffee and we spent probably an hour and a half just laughing and chit-chatting like no time had passed at all. Those moments reminded me that one ending doesn't mean your whole social world collapses. This is also a chance to meet new people. Join a social group. something that aligns with your interests. Maybe try volunteering or working on a project with some people that you don't normally choose to work with. Be open, but don't rush it. New friendships form naturally when you're doing things you love. Now, let's turn the page. What if you're on the receiving end of the breakup? That can sting like a surprise email you didn't see coming. Instead of dwelling on rejection, see it as a chance to reflect. Were there signs you were growing apart? Maybe you missed some clues that they were pulling away. Don't beat yourself up. Just think about what you want in friendships going forward. Use it as fuel to strengthen other connections or explore new ones. Forgiveness is also a big part of moving on, whether you initiated the split or not. Hold on to the good memories. They're part of your story, like snapshots in an album. Letting go of resentment toward yourself or them creates space for better things. I remember forgiving myself for feeling bad about all those draining conversations with that friend I talked about first. It wasn't about excusing my behavior or making space for their behavior. It was just about freeing myself from carrying that weight. Nothing more, nothing less. As I wrap up today, I'd like to kind of summarize the core of it. Ending a friendship isn't a failure. It's a choice to honor your growth. It's about recognizing what aligns with who you are now and making room for connections that feel mutual and uplifting. You're not cutting people out to be cruel. You're honoring a life that reflects your values, like editing a playlist to keep only the songs that move you. If this episode hit home, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment or engage on social media. Links are in the show notes. Have you navigated a friendship breakup and come out stronger? Share your story. Let's celebrate the growth together. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Until next time, keep building connections that matter. Take care.